We're going to look at, I'm not going to spend time going over this information, but I hope you've gotten a chance to think about, okay, what was written in each paper so that I can, kind of get an idea about what's a better paper. So, these are personal opinions, but I wanted you to think about which one was easier for you to read?
2.
2? Okay, why 2?
Because 1 is grammatically wrong.
Okay. Well, grammar shouldn't be the be-all, end-all of whether a paper is... Because guess what? I can read grammatically incorrect, so...
I can. I just... It's easier for me to read the second one.
Yeah. Okay. So the grammar might be part of it. How about which one helps you learn more about the student's process? Meaning, like the writer, what that writer and their group mates did. 1? Yeah. Anyone think 2 was more? All right. And then which one was more interesting to read? 1 or 2?
1.
1? Okay. Again, this is opinion. Thank you for responding because the paper that we're gonna look at for structure. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. The one that we're gonna look at more is gonna be paper 1. So because even if there's the grammar errors, we can learn more from the structure. And we can learn about maybe some grammar errors to avoid. So that means in the methods section, we've got this methods section. We need to write in it. What are we going to include in our methods section? What's the first part we want in our methods section based on what we learned from paper 1? So what's nice is they kind of give us the titles. You can include the titles or you don't have to. But yeah, so describing, they say development of the instrument, so they talk about the survey. So describe the survey. So describe the survey. Paper 2, all they did was just talk about the survey, and then they included one sentence about how they did what they did, as far as distributing it. But otherwise, they were just talking about the survey, which I could learn from just reading it. So that method section would get a low grade. The paper sample 1 would get a much higher grade because they have much more information that is much more interesting and much more relevant. So describe the survey. And then what do you do in paragraph 2? Groups. I'm so glad we're having this discussion because if I just gave these papers out, it sounds like it'd be difficult to... So what's in paper? The second paragraph, Dari.
They show the number of participants.
Yeah, so they talked about the participants. So that's where you're really going to be looking at your demographics. So that's where you're going to use your demographics. You saw this, paper 1 only had to do 25, and that's not great, but that's I think the participants in the second one in paper 2 are more reflective of the workload. But this one just had 25, but still we can learn about the frame. So you're going to describe the demographics. And then how about paragraph 3? What do they do in paragraph 3 in paper number 1?
Detail the procedure for administrating the server.
Yeah, so they talked about how they did the research. So they mentioned the procedure. So as soon as they developed the survey, what did they do? So what happens? They went out, they talked to people, they asked them questions. So that's the third part of your method section. I listed it by paragraph, but if you write more than one paragraph for each part, that's fine. But make sure you're including these different pieces. So I'm hoping that these are general enough that you can, any student in this class can follow those. One last question for you. Are there any references to articles? No. So yeah, you don't have to describe articles because you're just describing the process you took. Any questions? All right. So everyone now knows how to write the introduction, knows how to write the methods, and I'm going to go back to a couple more logistics. So the first thing, I want to talk about group versus individual. So how do the responsibilities break down in each group? So I've included like kind of a meme up here that I thought was like a little bit funny, where there's like someone does 99% of the work, has no ideas what's going on the whole time, says he's going to help, but he's not, disappear at the very beginning and doesn't show up again until the very end. I hope no one is having this experience. Is this image from like The Hangover or something? Okay, yeah. So I hope no one is having this experience, but in case you are, don't worry, there's help. So what I want you to do is, do you remember the paper at the beginning of class where I was saying IMRD? I had you guys talk about that. Flip it over because there's another guessing section where you're going to be talking about the group versus individual responsibilities. So this is a group project, but there are certain things that you're responsible for on your own. So here are some project tasks and requirements. So for each one, label it accordingly. So one is going to be like a specific, like G, that means like, okay, as a group, everyone does this, like you're responsible for it, it's a group effort. I, individual responsibility or task, you have to do that by yourself. And V, the division of work can vary by group. So some of these might have multiple answers, and we'll talk about that. So how about let's look at the first one and just do the first couple together. So read 2 Unit 3 articles from the reader, the Parker and Jigsaw article. What level of responsibility is that?
True.
It's individual. So yeah, each person had to read the 2 articles. How about read all 4 Unit 3 articles?
Individual.
That's group. So yeah, you were, yeah, so this kind of shows like some of the differences. So you have to you don't have to read every article. I recommend that you do that, but you don't have to. Understand the main ideas for all 4 Unit 3 articles from the reader. Individual, yes. Everyone is required to know that. We did an activity where you were able to do that. How about design a survey? Group, yes. Bring in 25 surveys that have been filled out by SDSU students. Individual. All right. How about analyze that survey data?
Individual.
So this is kind of like group / individual, / maybe just V. You can kind of, you can decide how you want to do it, but I recommend putting your heads together, looking at, yeah, because you're going to need the data from everyone. You can't just analyze your own data. You have to analyze your group's data. So it's going to be if you can say, hey, everyone, give me your surveys. I'm going to hang out with them for a few days, and I'll give them back to you. That's probably not going to work well. So probably better as a group, but you can do some individual analysis on your own. All right, so take a few minutes and go check with your group mates and go over this. And we'll come back in just a couple minutes and discuss this so that we can go over this together. Everyone's quiet.
Find one or more outside sources.